All right, guys, we are live. This is the Shillan and Duffy recap show for UFC Vegas 95, Tybura versus Spivac 2, Spivac versus Tybura 2, being brought to you by sherdog.com. This is live, so we have all the people in the chat, so shout out to them. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, my man?
I am doing just fine. Are we sure that I'm the one from Texas? Because you got the Buc-ee's hat
Like
on.
that?
I assume that you were hanging out there with Chelsea Chandler, just going at that barbecue and beef jerky bar. Maybe getting yourself a great big ice cream or something. Yeah, Vera Wera in the chat. I can't believe you guys are doing a recap this time. Understand that we complain about cards in advance, but afterwards, it's almost as fun to talk about the bad ones, at least to me. We'll talk about this thing for an hour and a half or so, and then I'll never think about it again.
Man, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is gonna be fun at all. But so let me tell you about my day, Ben.
All right.
So I started my day. Got up. I was in a good mood. I made some scrambled eggs for me and my son. I was about to bring in a wrestling practice. Before that, I was gonna get delivered a nice new kitchen table, which I'm actually sitting on right now. It's actually, you can't see it, but it's a really nice table. And I was getting a big giant sectional couch that, when we talked about furniture shopping a week ago.
Oh yeah.
Coming today, I took the doors off, let these guys get it in, and as soon as I show up, they can't fit it in.
Oh.
And so I had it. You got to understand, you got to go back. Me and my wife, we looked at like a million things. We're not one of those people, like, we look at one thing, we fall in love with it. Like, we got to go to every furniture store. We're going to price it out. We're going to see all our options. We have this like support pole that we had to like be around. So we like measured the room for that. And this thing had like a warning on size on it, but they kept saying like, oh, it's only if you have like a weird turn. And I said, no, we don't have a weird turn. This thing goes straight in, like through a regular door. And I asked the salesperson, like, is that a problem? Like, absolutely not. The person's turns to another one. He goes, oh, just a regular door? Yeah, it'll fit right in. You have no weird turns? Like, nope, no weird turns, straight into a door. They asked the manager, just to make sure. Yep. So after we looked at 900 different sofas, finally fell in love with this one. It didn't fit. So I had to go back, return it, do all that shit, and start all over again. So I'm looking at them, and it's like, all right, well, we can't get leather because my wife doesn't want ones that, it gets cold. We're in New England, so it gets cold in the wintertime. You're sitting on leather. Our downstairs basement, which is like our finished basement, gets kind of cold anyways during the wintertime. You don't want it to be leather because summertime is hot. We don't want reclining because reclining, we don't get enough chairs for everybody. We have a big family, so we got to get 5, and we've already had reclining. Then we want a chase lounge, but it's got to be a 3-piece one instead of a 2-piece one to fit everybody in. So right away, all the sectionals didn't have a chase lounge, wouldn't fit. Then we had to, because of the pole, we had to have a chase lounge with the right-hand arm and not the left-hand arm. So I had to be on the right side. So we had to take it on this side. We had to measure it out. There was ones that couldn't go this long way. And and then there was the ones we looked at and we're like, oh, we like this one, and you couldn't find out it's sold out, even though it's on the fucking showroom. They go, oh, well, yeah, unfortunately this one is not being carried anymore. It's going to be about 4 months before it comes back in. Well, what the hell you get on your damn showroom for? Anyways, so long story short, we ended up with like this like smaller one, stiffer one, uglier gray colored. Basically, we ended up with the Marcin Tybura, Serghei Spivac of couches. That's I mean, it's stiff, it's floppy, it's kind of ugly looking. You're not excited, you're not showing it off. That's what we got.
That's absolutely outstanding. I will say one thing. And credit for this thought to Brian Knapp, who is he's almost a 20-year veteran at Sherdog at this point, our features editor, who has pointed out in the Sherdog Slack that Serghei Spivac is now his fighter of the year. Fighter of the night, maybe fighter of the year, favorite fighter of all time, because there is no more precious gift than the gift of time. And Serghei Spivac gave us back 21 minutes of our lives that, let's face it, we were all pretty much resigned to this fight's going to go all 5 rounds. It might be close. It might be competitive, but no one's even going to get close to a finish. It's just going to be a top 10 version of slapping titties. And instead, pretty snappy finish there. No pun intended, as Tybura is like laying on the ground, seeing if his arm still goes the right way.
Yeah, when we're thinking about finishes, I don't think a submission was out of the realm of possibility. Like if you gave me, what's the most likely possibility, I'd say, okay, decision. Maybe next one, maybe some ground and pound, after you tie an affair. Okay, maybe a submission when someone gets a rear naked choke. But if you told me close guard, swinging the hips around, getting an arm bar, like what? Like I didn't see that coming.
It was remarkable, and
it looked like Ronda Rousey out there.
I'm not going to read too much into this because it still is Serghei Spivac and Marcin Tybura, but there's something to be said for Spivac coming into this fight 18 pounds lighter than his last appearance, which was not that long ago.
Yeah,
and and both of these guys are more nimble on the ground than you would expect from seeing how they look, how they fight on the feet. They're both plodding guys on the feet, but even Tybura is fast in transition on the ground for a 250-pound guy. And Spivac, obviously, when he's on, we saw him ragdoll, Derek Lewis all over the place. Even by those standards, this was slick stuff from Serghei Spivac. And he'll never be able to do this again to any UFC level fighter ever, because it had to have the element of surprise on top of proper technique and physicality. Like, now that everybody's seen this, he's never going to be able to do it again. So to do it in maybe the most important fight of his career to date. I mean, headlining a card against a guy who had beaten him before, 2 fighters constantly kind of banging on the floor of the top 5 and getting turned back every time. This was an important time for him to get a highlight reel finish. Like, we're about to spend however much time just dumping steady on this card, but credit where credit's due. Serghei Spivac looked great for all 3 minutes that he needed to.
Yeah, you're right. He came in shape, which I definitely like. He's definitely more athletic than he was. He's only 29, which is super young for a heavyweight. He was this guy that used to be this terrible striker. I still not excited about his striking, but he's added a little bit of element to his striking. Obviously, better shape if he can be more, better cardio, especially a guy who wants to wrestle a lot. It's kind of like it's like a double-edged sword. Like, you want to wrestle, so you want to be the heavy guy, so you get him down. You have that weight advantage, but also you want to have the cardio that you can wrestle. As far as this armbar, I'm trying to think, how many heavyweights in history do you think could pull off this submission?
Early Frank Mir was tapping people off his back, but he was tapping people off his back that Verdum. So we got Mir, an extremely athletic guy who was fighting people who didn't know how to counter him, and then Verdum, maybe the greatest heavyweight grappler of all time if you count gi, no gi, and MMA achievements.
Fedor, I think he did this to Mark Coleman, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Fedor is a Sambo guy. Like, Sambo is a lot of arm bars. Yeah, that's all
right. So let's see, Mir, Verdum, Fedor. I throw Nog in there. Nogueira could do this one.
Yeah,
is there
like Nog did arm bar people off his back.
Yeah. I mean,
unless you want to count like Ensid Inoue getting Randy Couture when Randy barely knew how to fight in like 1999.
1995. If I was in like junior high, it doesn't count. I think that's it. I'm sure there's somebody like, we're not like, what was that guy Powell and the Stula? Remember him? Like, I guess, but I mean, like, really guys that have been around for a while and established a career.
And we named all the people that could do it against decent fighters by the standards of their age.
Yeah. What's the guy there? The judo guy, Yoshida. I can't remember. He was on it.
Hidehiko Yoshida,
Hidehiko. Yeah, I can think of his first name. Yeah, he probably could have done that. But you get my point. I want to throw out a question by V Kendra. Vikendra, if I apologize if I said the wrong. Said, when was the last time a female fight ended in a guard armbar? I mean, probably a Ronda Rousey fight, or like someone we're not thinking of. Like,
I mean, I'm thinking of Mackenzie Dern fights.
Mackenzie Dern, that's
or Jillian Robertson, because those are the people that even try arm bars from guard.
What's that girl? She's kind of hot. Oh my god, this is so bad. I'm saying this. Oh god, she's not good. I'd say normally when we do the preview show, I'd be like, Ben, just edit this out. We can't edit this out. No, she's super low level. She's currently in the UFC, 115-pounder Brazilian, like super hot.
Oh,
I think she
I
did.
know who you're talking about. I can picture, and yeah,
Ninja Kitty say no love to Big Nog. I mentioned Big Nog. Oh, Julia Stolarenko. Actually, that's actually
Julia Stolarenko.
That's a good one. That's not who I was talking about. That's actually a good one. Julia Stolarenko.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably the best example. Nice job. Ninja Kitty asked me about
No, that would be Ben. Ben's the arm guy.
Yeah.
Like if Gabby Garcia is available and wants to smash, I'm asking my wife for a weekend pass.
All right. So yeah, okay. You throw me off a little. Listen, we're talking about couches and Gabby Garcia. So and me and my wife were cuddling on like a the chase side of a couch. I never really knew what it was called. I just would like that section. Now I know all about couches, and I'm like cuddling with her. I'm like, honey, like we gotta like, we're lounging trying to test this out, man. There's only really one way to test this thing out, see if we like it.
Okay.
So right there.
You're talking about Poliana Viana.
Poliana Viana. Yeah. I think did she pull an armbar like this? Nice job.
Thank you.
That's who I was thinking of. Being that he's only 29, I mean, how high can you? I mean, I know they're saying, oh, he's gonna be 7th, 8th in the world, something like that. Cool. I don't know where he's gonna fit in the Sherdog rankings, but around that range. I mean, could you see him breaking the top 5 one day?
Yes, I could see him breaking the top 5 one day. We're gonna talk about what's next for him. If he gets one of the matchups I'm naming for him and he wins, he'll probably be in the top 5. It would take a little bit of luck, but I could see him winning his way to a title shot. I wouldn't favor him against anyone he faced there, but
wow.
He's going to be in this division for another 8 years before things even start to fall off. Because the other thing is he's improving from fight to fight, and he's not taking a ton of damage even when he loses. He's not getting brained by people.
It's so funny. I go back like 3 years ago, Serghei. Or you can go back to that first fight against Marcin Tybura. If you told me that one of us would be saying Serghei Spivac could become a top 5 guy, or you said could even like luck himself into a title shot, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
I'm not as high as you are in this guy. I'm not thinking he'll get a title shot one day. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like there is a possibility that happens. Again, I'm not betting on it. I think the guy I'm going to say, like matchmaking him against next, I think this guy smashed him. But like you said, if he wins, he's a top 5 guy. I think the guy I'm going to say smashes him.
Okay.
So let's get right to it. Listen, we can only talk about a 3-minute fight that, we had Spivac open up with some punches. Get a quick takedown, ride too high, have Tybura fall on top, and then an armbar shortly after. So the way we do, if you never watched the show, the way we do our matchmaking, we do it unlike anybody else. Other shows will say, "Oh, let's matchmake," and then they go with who the UFC thinks the UFC will. They'll say, "Oh, that guy can't happen because of this." We don't do that. We just go, "We're in charge of the world. This is what we're matching." Nobody can say no. I'm going Curtis Blades. I mean, he's always in the top 5. I put Spivac versus Blades, and I think Blades smashes them.
I had 3 names, and Blades was number 1. Number 2 would be Sergey Pavlovich. Number 3 would be Volkov and Gon are about to fight. Spivac lost to Gon too recently, but if Volkov wins and he doesn't get an immediate title shot, then maybe Volkov. But yeah, Blades was my number 1 name too.
Okay. As far as Tybura, usually I like to drop the guys that are in that like 6 to 10 range that are losing against someone between 11 and 20. The problem is like the new crop of guys in there. There's nobody like exciting guy who deserves a step up in competition. So I'm doing the opposite. I'm using him as a rebound for somebody.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm getting poor Marcin Tybura knocked out by Serghei Pavlovich. That's what I'm doing next.
It's interesting because you and I address the same problem. The real problem is that Tybura now has 21 fights in the UFC. Like there's a reason he was fighting Spivac again. He's fought all these guys. You're thinking of letting a higher ranked guy or formerly higher ranked guy rebound. I'm thinking of using him to build up whoever's next. I was going to say, is Shamil Gaziev really the real thing? He got one bounce back win, from his first career loss. I'm doing Tybura versus Gaziev.
Is he the real fighter? Like, I think he's real. I don't think he's a good fighter, but I think he's like a real person.
Well, but I'm matching that, and then I'm taking that week off of work, so I don't have to talk about it.
You know what? On the run he's on, Anthem Tardoff mentions Mick Parkin. I mean, I'm kind of going like a stream going Parkin, go from Pavlich to Parkin. But if you go the opposite of what I said, like the guy coming up, that's not a bad offer.
Yeah. Anthony Tardoff also points out that Serghei versus Serghei would be hilarious, especially if your booth is like got DC in it.
Yeah. That's the only way. You'd have to put it in.
What Serghei got to do is.
No, you have to put it. You have to put it in Europe and have the referee's name be Serghei too.
Oh,
like that has to be. You have to find some European referee with the name Serghei.
Like just blood will start coming out of DC's nose. Like
or even if his name wasn't Serghei, just not calling it Serghei.
Yeah.
All right. I got nothing else to talk about this main event though. I'm really the only thing I'm happy. I'm glad we didn't have to break down rounds. Like, how did you score this round? Who entered this, titty banging round?
Serghei Spivac, you the real MVP.
You are the MVP. I was a terrible. You know what we could do? We got to settle the trilogy. They're 1-1 against each other. Give the people make some noise if you are ready.
Guys, make some noise if you want me to mute Keith's mic. Like what the. What the hell?
Oh man! All right. All right. Mark Adam actually had a pretty good joke, but I'm not going to put it on.
Yeah.
I can't. Before that, listen. I don't know what's more wrong. The UFC matchmaking putting Serghei Spivac and Marcin Tybura as the main event of. The one good thing I'm happy is that it ended at 10 o'clock and that not 1 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't one of those.
Yeah.
But the other sin they did was not putting Damian Jackson versus Chepe Mariscal in the co-main event. Like, I love that. But putting him in the apex. Like, these two guys deserve to be in a crowd. Imagine what the crowd would have been doing in this fight. They would have been going freaking berserk.
Yeah. It's everything. Yeah. I mean, we lose so much by having cards at the apex. That's as simple as it gets.
You can't watch this fight, or watch these two guys and not automatically know this is exactly how the fight was going to go. It was going to be a barn burner, nonstop action from the very second, the referee said fight. It was going to be balls to wall. I'll tell you right now, man, Chepe Mariscal is my guy. That's my dude. But I know he missed weight and everything's not like perfect, but we talk about like our guys, like, oh, this guy is not the best athlete, but he's like an overachiever who brings the action. Chepe is like the spokesperson for it. This guy is so freaking fun.
He is high motor. I mean, dude. And it's interesting. I didn't think of him as a terrible matchup for Damon Jackson until they started fighting. And then I realized that everything that Damon Jackson likes to do and depends on to beat more athletic, more skilled fighters just kind of played into Mariscal's hands. Mariscal won the wrestling heavy scrambles repeatedly.
Oh yeah. He was out hustling Damon Jackson, which doesn't seem to be possible.
Well, hustle plus positional awareness, because Jackson would be doing his thing where I'm just grabbing onto a low single while you're all over me, and I'm going to be on your back in 5 seconds. But Mariscal would just start pounding him on the side of the head while he was doing it.
Yeah, he was hitting him in all the small spaces. That was a big difference. Because Jackson will get in these scramble things where he'll end up on top, but he'll get in some weird scrambles, and it's like, oh my god, why do I think Jackson's good? He just did something really stupid, and then seconds later he's scrambling again. The only thing is Chepe made him pay for every single time he exposed his face.
Yes.
And it's the first time in a really long time I saw somebody start to break Jackson mentally. And say what you want about Jackson. Like, you can be better than him. You could hurt him, but breaking him is different.
Yes.
And I saw him mentally make that when he went, he did a peek out at one point, and Mariscal was nowhere to be found, and you could just see like him fall kind of his ass and just like had that take like a deep breath of like frustration, which you never see before out of him.
Yeah, good. No, completely agree. Just that usually works for me. Holy crap. What do I do now? Thing. Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be people that Chepe goes against that you would look on paper and say, oh, this guy's going to beat him, and he's going to win. He's going to beat someone that no one expects him to because of this style, where he loses the first or something like that, and then he just takes over.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And it's going to be that kind of sledding for him at 145 pounds. I mean, 145 is full of guys that are going to, a lot of them are going to look bigger. A lot of them are going to be more athletic looking. A lot of them are going to be prettier strikers than him. And you're right. He's going to pick up multiple wins over guys that by the eyeball test should beat him on pure hustle.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say, like, there'll be all this stuff. They won't weigh more than him. If it's at 145, Chepe will still weigh more than him. Which I saw Miles Johns, and I know Miles Johns is teammates with Damon Jackson, so he was kind of making an excuse, but he said, if Chepe made the weight, would he have won? I think it's a fair question. But not in a
especially considering, I mean, it's a question that we'll never know the answer to.
No.
Unless, I mean, they fought again sometime soon, but I see no reason to do that. But yeah, it's worth asking, especially when you want to fight by pushing a furious pace against a guy that normally can push a pace with the best of them. So it's worth asking, but you know what? Jackson signed on the dotted line.
Yeah. And I would say this. I would say, yeah, maybe he doesn't win if he made weight, if I didn't see him press the same pace when he has made weight. Like, he didn't suddenly seem like he had more energy than he's ever had before.
Yeah, agree. He just seemed kind of like his usual self.
He's in that cardio club.
Yes, he does. He is. But, to really be in the cardio club, you got to start making weight, dude. I want to address the question that John Butterfield put up. John, our British homie, Middle East expert. What do we think Chepe's ceiling is going to be?
I don't like people.
I'm going to say I'd be surprised if he ever really broke the top 10. Like,
yeah,
I'm looking at the 11 through 15 in the UFC's featherweight division, and these are the Sherdog rankings, which include some people outside the UFC, but I'm looking at names like Joe Anderson Brito, Calvin Kattar, Bryce Mitchell. Like, I think he'd give all those guys a good fight, but I wouldn't comfortably favor him over any of them.
I bet.
Laron Murphy.
Okay. Laron Murphy would be a really tough one, but I got no issue taking him over Calvin Kattar.
Okay, Kattar,
there's a chance Kattar just absolutely clocks him and knocks him into next week. But
also Kattar 2 years ago was like a top 5 guy, and he's on the plummet. Guys that are on the rise, like Brito and Murphy, it's more of a
Well, this is what I'll say. Like, I would favor Murphy for sure. Brito, maybe, but it'd be one of these ones where I'm not super confident in the pick. But every minute that goes by, no matter how bad he's losing, I'm starting to feel more and more confident in his chances.
Yeah.
It's like either Brito takes him out quick or, oh shit, you might be in trouble.
That's that's fair.
I think he'd give Bryce Mitchell a real run for his money.
I want to see that fight. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That would be a fun round fight to watch.
It's 145. It's hard to make a bad fight at 145. Let's move on. Before that, and I apologize if I butcher the names. Danny Barlo took on Nikolai Vernikov.
Vernikov, very, very good.
Winning by split decision. First of all, it was a close fight, but that 30-27 scorecard.
Dude, there were 37-27 scorecards both ways. The 30-27 scorecard for Barlo was bad too, but the 30-27 for Vernikov, I hope it was a transcription or math error, because otherwise that's one of the worst individual scorecards I've ever
No, I don't. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If it's a math error, if you can't figure out the math of a fight like this, then you definitely shouldn't be judging. If you can't add 10 3 times and 9 3 times, then
Well,
you
no,
shouldn't.
I'm saying if it's a math error, then it might have been, the regulator that picked him up, or whoever tabulated it at the scorer's table. If somebody actually watched that and thought Vernikov won all 3 rounds, they need to not judge a fight ever again.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is what I'm going to say about Barlo, because Barlo was a guy that I liked a lot. Obviously, Vegas had him as I remember you saying something like stupid. Like he was one of the biggest favorites on the card.
-7.
Yeah, that's insane. But I mean, there's a reason. Like the guy has looked really good in the past, and there's definitely some things to like about him. He is the complete opposite of Cheppy Mariscal, who we just talked about. I said Mariscal's going to beat guys that he is not better than.
Mm-hmm.
Barlo's going to lose to somebody that he's better than.
He's already leaving fights closer than they need to be against,
exactly.
and that the next step from there is you're into that Jorge Masvidal, Bobby Green territory where you're going to get jobbed a few times. And while fighters should be able to trust that judges know how to do their job, but judging is what it is. And if you leave it in their hands too many times, it is going to bite you,
Yeah. He had a matchup that to me was the perfect stylistic matchup for him, where he's going against another striker where he's faster than, he hits harder than, he's more athletic, he's got a long reach. Like every single box that you could check was in his favor. He's younger than, everything. And he still lost the scorecard. Now, I agree with you. I think it was bad. But if someone scored at 29-28 for Vernikov, I wouldn't be happy with it, because I thought Barlo won the first 2 rounds. But the second round was closer. I still think he won it, but I'm glad this is like perfect timing. Hallelujah! I can't even say that. Hallelujah!
Hallelujah!
Yeah, yeah. Let's say shows back and read better than this. If I like the name though, that could have been some of it. But my issue with him is he is constantly looking for the highlight reel. He's looking for the walk-off punch, and he kind of gets this like Bobby Green thing going where he's cruising, and then he's throwing one punch, or like these wrestlers that suddenly fall in love with the hands. Like it's funny that we just mentioned, but like guys like Miles Johnson went through this like moment where all he was doing was looking for the big one punch. Josh Emmett is another guy where he's always trying to land that one per. Dan Henderson going back in the day was like, and I kind of feel like that's with Barlo. And the problem is he reminds me of like a less accurate Michael Van Page, where he wants to be Michael Van Page. He just is not as accurate.
I think that's fair.
And I think it's to me, his stock went down tonight, even though he won.
Sure. Even if he didn't get a highlight reel knockout, if he just settled for throwing in combination and outlanding Vernikov 3-1, so there's no question he gets 30-27s across the board, like that's all he needed to do. He didn't need a highlight reel finish here.
I think if he threw combinations, I think he knocks him out.
That's entirely possible. I mean, like he dictated the kind of fight where Vernikov was able to stay in it.
Yeah. So when we broke down the card earlier this week, we had a couple other fights that were that end up dropping out. Some of the, probably the better fights on the card. Like you asked me before the card, what was the best fight on the card? I said Javid Basharat versus Chris Gutierrez. Then later on, I changed it to Alan Nascimento versus Jafal Filho.
And we lost both.
That one completely fell out. Then Basharat had to withdraw. Chris Gutierrez got a last-minute change. Kwang Lee, who was set to fight on the Contender Series, and Chris Gutierrez won a unanimous decision. This had a little bit of the Danny Barlo feel to me, where Gutierrez was much better than his opponent. And, I mean, he clearly won. I mean, I thought he had the first and third round, clearly won. But again, like if he turns on the gas a little bit in the third, he gets a spectacular finish.
Yeah, I wonder if how much of the third round for Gutierrez was, holy cow, this guy almost beat me last round. I just need to get out of here with the W.
Yeah, it
Because
could have been. But why did he almost beat you? Why did he almost beat you? Because you got taken down and you stopped playing jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Let me explain something to you guys. And this is probably the wrong timing to say jiu-jitsu is dead when Serghei Spivac pulled an armbar from the closed guard today. But generally
Sambo.
speaking, yeah, but generally speaking, jiu-jitsu doesn't work against high level MMA. Yes, guys, I know there's some here and there, but that point, you get my point. Like it becomes more and more rare. Laying on your back, being held down is not a good sign.
Yeah, the guard part is pretty much dead in top level MMA.
As the main event ended with a armbar from guard.
Yeah,
but even on the feet, like he cruises too much. I mean, he was jab, leg kick, and it's like, dude, add some power shots in there. If he had anything, he had it to like, a left hook, a straight right, going down the body, something. And I think he could have had a spectacular, or just even like the rounds weren't even as close. Even the first round, like he won the first round, but it could have been. I mean, the third round was only when he pulled away, and I wonder, like, if Quang Lee, and I know he's fighting the Contender Series in like 6 weeks from now, but still, 6 weeks is not peaking,
right?
I mean, that's really kind of when you start your camp. So I wonder how much of an actual camp he had. I'm sure he wasn't coming off the couch, but it's different intensity. Obviously, going against a higher guy in the division like Gutierrez, to me. And I understand that you can give Gutierrez a little pass. He also had to change an opponent last minute. So I know there's a little pass, and you're going from Basharat, maybe he's focusing more on wrestling or something, and then you got a different guy. Okay, fair enough. Still, I just think when you're at this level of the UFC, you should have like a spectacular showing.
Yeah, I agreed. Just a very similar thing where Gutierrez, I feel like he could have done a lot more, and it'll be on him next time to prove that he still is that top 15, borderline top 10 guy in the bantamweight division.
All right, we're rolling on, guys. I tell you, this is gonna be a short show. Yana Santos, formerly known as Yana Kuniskaya, took on Chelsea Chandler, winning by unanimous decision. Ben, I had an overall good night of picks. This was my worst one. I picked Chelsea Chandler to win just because it wasn't tape study. It was thinking about the outside factors, new mom and, married, and the husband's on this losing streak, and wondering about how, interested she's in fighting. Is this just a paycheck at this point? Yep. No, I was way wrong. What a friggin' thrashing. Like, this is a 30-27, but it wasn't even close.
Nope. No individual round was close. And you and I both kind of, I picked Santos, but I talked about that narrative as well. What's her motivation level at this point? And just, I got too clever for myself and just missed the point that this has been a woman fighting at a contender / championship level for almost a decade. Like, she has almost as many title fights as Chelsea Chandler has fights, and is an absolute professional. She showed up looking in incredible shape. She fought a very solid fight, and by the end of it, made Chandler look silly. Like,
yeah, and Chandler missed weight again. This is 2 fights in a row she missed weight. This time,
this is the worst one.
Yeah, we made a joke on the preview show that I was like, hey, just keep missing weight, missing by even more. I wish she didn't take my advice. I was only joking. She missed by 5 pounds. I mean,
yep.
Holy, but you know what? It kind of reminds me of when I went to customer service today for the couches. So when these guys brought the couches, they talked to me about this box thing and how it has been made to not fit in like ordinary doors, and how he said, I think he's probably exaggerating, but 90% of the times that people buy this, we have to bring it back. And then I go to customer service and I bring it up and like, why are you surprised when I'm mentioning I got to bring it back if it's brought back 90% of the time? Kind of like you fight Chelsea Chandler. Why are you surprised when she misses weight? And then talk about how unprofessional she is. You kind of knew this when you signed up.
Yep, Chelsea Chandler doesn't fit in the Apex stores apparently.
Yeah, she doesn't fit in the ordinary door. And just for the record, before anybody asks me, I didn't know that this gets returned 90% of the time. So they'll be like, "Oh, kid, you should have measured it." Yeah, I listened to a friggin', I listened to salesman. Shame on me, but fuck off.
I love that Santos just literally pointed a finger at Chandler and did not let her off the hook. Just look at her. Look at how fat she is. She didn't even try. Like Santos is going to town.
She mean girl there at the end.
She mean girled her, but hey, like I can understand that level of frustration, that level of disrespect. Again, like you and I both wrestled, and there was never any question to this because nobody makes money in wrestling, especially at the amateur level.
No,
like if I didn't miss weight, if I didn't make weight, if the other person didn't make weight, I get a walkover.
Yeah,
it counts as a win. I move on. If we're in a tournament, I move on to the next round. Here, like if Chandler had missed weight badly enough that the fight went off, Santos gets nothing. I mean, if she's lucky, she gets her show money. Like, boom. I understand the frustration. So, good on her. Good showing. She can keep beating the Chelsea Chandlers of this division, I guess, for as long as she wants to stick around. Because, as it was pointed out, they're like less than a calendar year apart in age.
Yeah. Speaking of missing weight, former one championship fighter Ritu Fogot's sister actually made the Olympics, made it to the finals, and missed weight, which means she had to forfeit all the matches and she didn't even get the silver medal. So she went from being at least a silver medalist to not making weight at the Olympics and get nothing. And she would have went against American Sarah Hildebrand, who she had to take on the Fogot's, the girl that Fogot's sister beat in the semis, got bumped to the finals, and then Sarah Hildebrand beat her anyway. So, but that's where I'm going to stop talking about Olympic wrestling because, first of all, American women, freestyle women, absolutely freaking killed it. We got 2 gold medalists. We got Kenny Blades, who's going for the gold medal tomorrow, which nobody was predicting on planet Earth except for one person. This guy, I picked her to win.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, but you know what's amazing? I also said all 6 guys would medal, and only 4 of them medaled, not a single gold. First time since 1968, America did not have a gold, and the Russians weren't even there. What a terrible showing by USA Wrestling. No, I shouldn't say terrible. They still freaking got a bunch of medals, but not what it could have been. I was really disappointed. Anyways, back to this freaking card. Yeah, like Santos is just, I mean, she's so much faster, more athletic, powerful. She was hurting her to the body. I did think it was funny when she like called her fat. Think about like, when you gotta say there was like modeling in Russia. I'd love to like, people could take those 2 pictures put together, like put a picture of Chelsea Chandler and then just put a picture of like Yana Santos when she's like those modeling days and be like UFC fighter calls the other fighter fat and like all the freaking just show a picture of like Yana like that. All the freaking women would come out trying to defend Chelsea Chandler. I said it's one of those like fat women marches, but Chelsea Chandler wouldn't be there, so too much exercise. Before that, Tashiami Kazama, I apologize if I butchered that first name. I'm definitely gonna butcher this one. Charalempos Gregorio.
That was actually pretty damn good.
And Kazama won by second round submission. These guys are low level UFC talent. Like I don't even know if they're UFC talent, but the fight was fun as hell.
It was an absolute blast. Neither of us were high on either of these fighters. There was an interesting dynamic that happened here because one of the oldest cliches in fighter speak is saying, I've got to impose my will on this fight. But that's what a lot of this fight was. Like the first round, it's like Kazama knew. He's like, okay, I need to get this guy to the ground. If I don't, he's going to tie me for something and knock me the hell out. And Kazama just willed the fight to the ground. He ran straight across the cage, shot a takedown, persevered until he got him down, and ended up winning the round. Second round, Gregorio's like, well, I can't let that happen again. I need to keep this on the feet and knock this dude out. Gregorio throws a flying knee, starts flurrying with punches, looks like he's going to knock him out. It ended up not working because he has the worst gas tank I've ever seen in the bantamweight division. But
and he wanted out immediately after that.
Oh, when Kazama got the finish, like I had my sound off, but I was like, okay, wait, why did he tap? I thought maybe he had like a broken rib or dislocated shoulder or something. Cause I'm like, he shouldn't be tapping. Like his arm isn't even across his carotid or his windpipe. And then when Kazama lets him go, I'm like, oh, he's just gassed out.
Yeah. I think it was, I don't know if it was Bisping or Felder when he put the triangle choke on him. And he's like, well, he's going to bring his arm over to the left side. And usually the guy would like try to know that and like hide their arm. As soon as he touches on, he just moved. Like, it looked like when you're like teaching the move. And he didn't put any resistance. Like, oh yeah, put my arm over there. Yeah, he seemed like he wanted out, which is again not an example for me to say jiu-jitsu is dead, but we had 2 subs from guard in this one. Kazama's a good grappler. Like I actually like his grappling. And I didn't mind Gregorio going crazy in the second because if not, he was just going to get taken down. So he gave him his chance to win. Like he had that moment. He almost caught it too, which goes back to Kazama. Like I like Kazama's grappling. That's why I picked him here. But his durability is going to be an issue. He got hurt again at third, like against a low level guy. It was like 3 fights in a row. I mean, he got knocked out 2 before that. Almost got knocked out again. That's going to be an issue. Before that, Carol Hosa took on Penny Kianzad with Hosa just freaking thrashing Penny Kianzad. I mean, she punished her.
Oh, I mean, and punished her using just a really basic tool set. I ended up being on duty and writing the Sherdog recap for the undercard that only ended up being 4 fights. And my lead was sometimes to win a fight, all you need is one elite tool, the will to use it, and an opponent that cannot or will not adjust. Like Carol Hosa started sawing the front leg off of Penny Kianzad immediately. And if you've watched any tape on Hosa, you know that's what she's going to do. And it worked. Like Kianzad went from ignoring the kicks to not ever really checking them successfully, but went from ignoring them to pulling her leg out of danger to getting her knee buckled by the end of the first round. And that basically told the whole story of the fight. Just her trying all these roundabout ways to get around the fact that she was getting her leg kicked off. Like in the second round, she worked harder at forcing the clinch, found out that Hosa's kind of mean there too. Hosa was really good at meeting Kianzad with level elbows, with short punches, whenever Kianzad tried to collapse the pocket. But really the whole story of the fight was Carl Hosa just brutally kicking the legs. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, it's really becoming like when we think about fighters who have like a certain dangerous weapon, like almost think about like WWE like finishing moves. Like Carol Hosa's leg kicks is becoming that like we were talking about like what if people Krokop has a high kick and this guy has like you put Carol Hosa's calf kicks. I mean, it's 3 or 4 fights in a row. She's brutalizing women with these kicks. She definitely like to stand your ground. She's got a mean streak in her. I will say this. She's 7-3 in the UFC. It's a quiet 7-3.
Yeah.
That said, like we talk about this card, and you mentioned, Serghei Spivac could actually go on a run where he could fight for the title one day. And Carol Hosa is the one. And again, I'm not picking this, so people listen to what I'm saying. She's the one who could win the title. If we're taking anybody on the card, she's the one most likely to hold the title one day.
Yeah, because one, it's such a depleted division that she might only be 2 wins away from being able to call for it. And second, there's just no dominant fighter up there.
Yeah.
That makes you say never. You're never saying never when it's the Juliana Peñas and Raquel Penningtons of the world up there holding the spot.
Yeah, there's only one person in the division right now where I would be very confident they could beat up Carol Hosa. That's Kayla Harrison. She's the only one. But I'm like, okay, I'd be really surprised if Carol Hosa wins. And then, if Amanda Nunes came out of retirement, which, we've heard rumblings about that. I'm not saying I would favor her over some of the people you said, but like Juliana Peña, I probably would. I know she struggled. She'd get put on her back, but that was a long time ago. Go back to like Sarah McMahon. back in the day. By the way, Sarah McMahon, speaking of the Olympics, was there at the Olympics coaching Amit Alor, 20 years old, won the Olympic gold medal. She's 20. She's already won 3 world championships. I mean, if you count the Olympics as a world championship, which obviously it is, 2 world championships and senior world championships. Not like she's won like under 23s and the cadets, and she's won everything. But girls 20, she's the best pound for pound woman wrestler in the world. Anyways, I like Carol Hosa. I wanted to go on a run. She's fun as hell to watch too.
Her fights have been fun, and again, we just named her leg kicks as an elite weapon, a patented finisher, and so much of it is because she knows what she's good at and she actually goes to it. Like, think about it. Like, we all know on some level that Justin Gaethje has some of the best leg kicks in the game, but we forget about it because he underuses them so badly. Nobody's ever going to say that about Carl Hosa. She's like,
no,
I got one sharp tool in this drawer. I'm going to use it until somebody does something.
Yeah, it's very Chris Gutierrez style. It's good Jonathan Martinez. I'm gonna matchmaker. I know I didn't ask you to do many matchmaking. Yep. I think she needs a big name. I'm gonna give her Harley Holm.
Wow, let me see what I.
That's a tough stylistic matchup, but
in a couple weeks on September 28th, so I guess 6 weeks from now, there are 2 women's bantamweight fights in one night. There's Eileen Perez versus Daria Zheleznyakova and Nora Cornell versus Jermaine Durandamy. My thought was give Hosa whoever comes out of that looking good. Jermaine Durandamy would certainly count as a big name.
Sure.
And if it is Durandamy, that instantly takes more title implications because Durandamy as a former champ is going to have a former champ who's like pushing 40 is going to have a quicker road back to the title. So if that goes through Hosa, then it gives Hosa some shine as well.
And don't forget, Jermaine Durandamy never lost her title. I mean, I know she lost fights since then, but she actually never lost the title.
Nope. She walked away.
She's in that category of people.
Yeah. John suggests Mayra Bueno Silva. I'm A-okay with that as well. It would certainly challenge Hosa's streak of interesting fights.
Yeah. Speaking of interesting fights, Carl Williams took on Janise, winning. Denise winning by unanimous decision. So Janise is undefeated. We'll get to Williams' performance in a second, but I want to focus on the positive. Dude's undefeated. And heavyweight. Yep. He's got power. He's got a lot of holes, but he's still like only 8 fights in his UFC career. I mean, in his professional career. Do you believe that at all? Are you a believer?
I'm not a believer in him as a future champ, but if he wins his next 2 fights, he's probably banging on the door of the top 10. So I do believe in him as a future top 10 fighter. A year from now, I think he's a top 10 fighter, and he's at least fighting your Tybura, Spivac, losers of the world.
Yeah, I see him as like a possible I can see him as like a Jairzinho Rosenstrike, where he makes the top 10. No one ever takes him as a serious contender. But if you stand and bang with him, he's got the tools that he can put anybody out. Let's kind of feel like Rosenstrike.
Yeah, that's
the strike is a little overrated, which I think Denise's strike is a little overrated, but generally you get my point.
I do. And you know what? If Carl Williams had gone out and fought Jairzinho Rosenstrike tonight and barely tried to take him down at all, he might have gotten a lot worse than what Denise gave him. Denise. We just talked about what's her name? Hosa. Carl Hosa, knowing what she needed to do to win the fight, doing exactly that and doing it until or unless her opponent did something about it. Williams is a good boxer, but he had to know on some level that his best chance to win this fight was taking Denise down. And he barely tried in the first round. And then after, and I'm not in his shoes. I don't have a 260-pound guy jabbing me and hitting me with 1-2s. Maybe he saw something in the first 7 minutes of this fight that made him think, okay, I can't get in on this guy's hips. I don't know what it was, but it was deflating. You and I both picked Williams here, and I honestly felt semi-confident in it. I was like, Williams is in fact, I think I even said, I'm like, Williams is the kind of guy that's going to know his best route to victory, and I think he's going to try to take Denise down early and often. He did neither.
Yeah, you can't watch the Denise's like last fight and not realize you should wrestle. Dev Goes Fishing, also known as Dev Tejada, said Carl has the same IQ as Carl from The Walking Dead. I don't get that reference, but I know it's a very popular show, so I'm assuming that's pretty funny. So
now I just want, what's his name, like yelling at him, "Come on, Coral!"
Okay, I mean, I don't really watch that show, so I'm assuming that was a pretty funny reference. Yeah, I mean, you watch in the third when he finally goes to takedown, he pins him against the cage and beats him up, and it's like he shot for a takedown once, and it was the most obvious time he was gonna shoot because he got like buckled for a second, and then as soon as Denise got in range, he shot. Like everybody on planet Earth knew he was gonna shoot a takedown once Denise got in that, and then he just abandoned it for the next 10 minutes or longer. And he's losing. It was like if he was being successful, I get it, but he was clearly losing.
And Bisping had a good point about this. Like Bisping will have those moments of just really, really smart analysis where he pointed out Williams's best takedowns are reactive ones when he catches someone coming in and over swinging, and Denise, just by being patient and making Williams go first, basically neutralized that whole thing. And Williams was reduced to shooting telegraph takedowns from too far out.
Shot once.
Yeah.
And it was blocked. Like if they're not going to give you have to, like that opening, you got to make your own openings. And it was I mean, I thought it was terrible. Like if you have Steph Curry on your team, you let him shoot. That's what he does. Like him not wrestling was like that. Like Steph Curry get the ball and not shooting, or having Bo Nickel not wrestle. Like you go wrestle.
Well, Bo Nickel could have stood to go wrestle this week over in Paris.
He was over there. Before that, speaking of wrestling, Yusuf Zalal take on Jarno Diniz, winning by first round submission. Dude, we talk about BJJ being dead. Not with Zalal. His submissions, his BJJ is super slick.
It was always what he was best at. Again, despite the whole stance, the whole Moroccan. He looks like every Moroccan kickboxer that passed through like European promotions like Glory in like the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, his wrestling and grappling were always underrated. And in the two fights since he's been back, it's just on a different level. Like, yeah, he looked, and again, Erens was tailor-made for him to do this too. Zalal was a better kickboxer than Erens and a 10 times better ground fighter. But you still got to go out and do the thing. We had plenty of fighters tonight that had a route to victory and didn't take it. Zalal made this look easy.
Yeah, when you're the big, whatever he was a massive favorite yourself. This is the type of performance you should put on. You should be finishing the guy in the first round, and that's what he did. And he had a little buzz when he first came to UFC. Then he went on a little, losing streak. We already mentioned he lost to good guys, but then he came back. It's like he's continued to show, like, oh yeah, maybe you shouldn't quit on a guy who's 25 years old or something. Now, I know now he's like 27, but I'm not going to say that he's going to be a top 15 guy. Like I'm not going to make a prediction, especially in that division, because it's so good. But this dude's just now entering his prime, and he's like better than ever. He could become a top 15 guy.
Well, we were just asked this about Chepe Mariscal. Again, if you take any 145 pounder that's not a superhuman talent, my guess is going to be no, just by the odds. It's too good a division. But I would give Zalal a much, much higher chance of being a ranked featherweight / title contender at some point in the future than Mariscal. Zalal's younger. He's bigger. He's more athletic. Yeah. Mariscal's ground game is sneaky good. Zalal's is just lights out good. It's turning elite in this division. So yeah, he looks great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I like Zalal moving forward. I'm excited to see who gets matched with next. And before that, we had the rematch that everybody was dying to see. Talita Alencar taking on Stephanie Luciano. Luciano getting the unanimous decision. Yeah, I really think. I mean, Alencar fought a terrible fight. I mean, she was struggling to get inside on Luciano. She kept telegraphing her shots so bad. She had to bob and weave, get inside, get in close, then start shooting from that range. I will say this: Luciano let her hang around. Like this could have been a thrashing. Luciano, she was worried about the takedown, so she didn't let her hands go enough. If she let her hands go enough and put up the pace, especially when against Alencar, who's gassed, I think this could have been like Hosa fight, thrashing. Because she clearly at 24 years old made adjustments, looked better. And she's only 24, so I do like her moving forward. So I don't want to seem like I'm bashing her performance. I just think it could have been even more. She played a little too safe for me.
I could not agree more. I mean, their first fight ended with Luciano pulling away to the point that it ended in a draw after she lost the first 2 rounds. She picked up right where she left off here, pretty much dominant from the start. I agree that she didn't step on the gas as hard as she could have in the first 2 rounds. And then in the third round, once she realized, okay, I was already the better fighter than Alencar, and now Alencar's tired. She's just kind of running at me. At that point, Luciano started to smile, started to style. And at the point where she realized that she might be able to get some sort of highlight reel finish, she just went about it in a weird way. She just started throwing. I mean, I feel like she threw 12 or 15 just head kicks with no setup. Where if she had really just either caught Alencar coming in with something big, like she did when she dropped her, or walked her down and started just throwing combinations against the fence, she could have gotten the finish. Like, it was a weird performance by Luciano, but it doesn't change the fact that she won all 3 rounds easily. And yeah, I mean, she's put that behind her now, and I'm mildly interested in her as a prospect in the strawweight division. Strawweight division is a pretty strong division, but it doesn't have a ton of young up and comers. It doesn't have a ton of new blood. Uh, if Luciano keeps improving like this, she's going to be a factor over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially at that age. I totally agree. So there you guys have it. We covered all 10 fights. Did it in just over an hour. Take out the timer. The timer clock or whatever. The countdown clock. We did it under an hour, which is crazy for us. Let's get to the fun stuff. Let's do. We have the awards, Ben.
Awards. Let's take a look here.
And do you agree with them?
Well, that's the real question.
Oh, do we not have them?
We actually don't. We actually don't have them yet.
All right, so let's just give it. Let's just throw what we would do.
All right. In the comments, let us know. I mean, usually the UFC gives a fight of the night and 2 performances of the night, but we know that plenty of times they will skip the fight of the night and just give out 4 performance bonuses. So let us know whom you would give the awards to. And if we find out what the official ones were at any point here, or if any of you are too screening it and you're watching the post-fight press conference and you find out, let us know. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. I'll let you go first. I'll tell you.
Okay. I wouldn't give a fight of the night tonight. I mean, the only really good fight was the co-main event, Marscal versus Jackson. So I just give out 4 performances of the night.
Okay.
I give them to Yusuf Zalal, Serghei Spivac, Toshiomi Kazama, and at this point, I'm going to have to give a performance bonus to somebody that didn't finish their fight. If I'm giving it to one of them, I think the obvious choices are either Hosa or Luciano. I'm probably giving it to Hosa.
Yeah.
They were both just kind of one-sided maulings, but Hosa did it to somebody that I'm at least pretty sure belongs in the UFC.
Yeah. I'm going to go more traditional. I am going to do a Friday night with 2 performances. I definitely would give it to Spivac. Man, that's obviously the easy choice. I'm actually going to go with someone who didn't get a fight. I want to go with Hosa. Just the way she, put on a beating. And as far as fight of the night, I mean, Chevy Mariscal is not eligible because he missed weight. I give Jackson both of them.
Damon Jackson, $100,000 consolation prize. Thank you for signing on the dotted line.
Plus his normal pay, and then the extra money he gets from Mariscal will be a nice payday for Damon Jackson.
Yeah, not a bad night of work at all. So you're leaving Yusuf Zalal on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, he was a massive favorite. That's my one issue.
That's
like
a
it was
good
expected.
point.
He was. I mean, whatever. If you want to give him
No.
something, toss him $5K.
Yeah.
All right, let's go negative. Let's do the cut list, man.
All right.
So the way the cut list works, if both me and Ben have the same fighter on the list, we allow the UFC to cut them with the contender series coming up. There'll probably be a lot more people to cut than I expect, but I have 3, Ben.
I have 2, but I'm really on the border with another one, so I'm open to being convinced here.
All right, my number one, or the first person, I'm going to go with Gregorio. I mean, the dude just isn't UFC level.
Okay, he wasn't one of mine actually, so I guess
you saved him. All right.
Hey, you know what? He gets it for this. In a whole night of fights at the Apex, we found out how loud that place can get when you bring 6 people from Long Island in there. Like, it makes a difference when the place only seats 200. You bring 6 Long Islanders in there, the place got loud for him. So I guess that's why he gets a reprieve.
All right. My next person does not have a bad record in the UFC overall. It's just, I mean, you keep missing weight. I'm getting rid of Chelsea Chandler. There's no weight class for her. She can't make 135.
Chandler was one of mine as well. She has never made 135 in the UFC. She didn't fight at 135, at least in her last few fights in Invicta. Yeah, there's no indication that she can fight in the UFC. So,
and my other one I had, I actually think she's better than her UFC record suggests, but eventually you have to stop winning fights. I mean, she's listening to good people, but Penny Kianzad has lost 3 in a row. She's lost 4 out of 5. She's got thrashed in a lot of them. I'm gonna get rid of Penny Kianzad.
Okay, Penny was one of mine. 3 in a row, 4 of her last 5. Well, she was the one that I had kind of on the edge, and mostly just because I just finished saying I'm pretty sure she belongs in the UFC, and then didn't want to
I agree
myself. I'm throwing in there. Yarno Erens is 1-3 in the UFC, and he's lost to strikers, he's lost to grapplers, he's
all right.
But I'm fine with him getting another chance. It's just with 4 fights in the UFC, it's not even firing him so much as right now, or on Monday, Sean Shelby, McMahon, Hunter Campbell are going to get together and say, okay, which of these expired contracts are we re-signing? I wouldn't re-sign them, but I'm fine with giving him another chance. Yeah.
All right, let's do dude seriously. Do you have any dude seriously? I have 3. It's a short one this week for me.
Yeah, I can't think of any, but give me yours and I might think of one.
All right. I'll go with Michael Bisping first of all. Is in cage interviews. I think he was talking to Janise and he's like, you're 2-0, 3-0, whatever he said. How far are you going to go in the UFC? How far do you think you can go in the UFC? It's like, what a dumbass question. What's he going to say? Oh, this is it. Beating Carl Williams is the absolute top. Like, this is. I'm probably going to go on a losing streak after this. Like,
it'd be even better if he was like, I'm going to go on a little bit of a run, but I'm going to top out at number 9, and like the ghost of Curtis Blades is going to destroy me 3 years from now. Like,
yeah. Like this, like wait, because he said, "I'm going to win the title." Like, yeah, I'm going to go all the way. Like, why? How else could they possibly answer that question? Michael Bisping again in the booth said he was talking about the hand down rule. Put the hand down, and who was it? Someone threw an illegal knee that was like very close to. Was it Kazama?
It was Kazama and Gregorio. It was in that fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And Michael Bisping was like, well, they changed that rule in November. And he's like, you know who's really going to like that? Chris Weidman's going to like that rule change because, he had that position a couple of times against Yoel Romero. Well, first of all, no, he didn't. Yoel Romero flying knee him, knocked him out cold. But that, and I guess he would put his hand out to save him. But then he also mentioned the Gegard Mousasi, and it's like, no. That rule is the only thing that almost saved Chris Weidman. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Like, it wouldn't have been any controversy. Mousasi would have won pretty easily. Like, it was Chris Weidman's the only person who's benefited from that rule. Yeah, almost benefited. So, bad example. Was okay. I can't even tell. I can't even tell what my. Oh, the last one goes to Chepe's corner. Chepe had an incredible performance, but they started like talking junk to Damian Jackson, and they're right in front of his cage. He goes, "Hey, you can throw him anytime you want. If he's done enough to keep pressing in on you like that, do it." And I'm like, "You said it in between rounds. Why would you tell him that so he's not going to press in anymore so he gets thrown?" Like, I don't know it was clear as day they said that. So, dude, seriously, those are my dudes. Seriously, so I didn't do it right tonight. I'm already checked out. I didn't do my. You're supposed to say dude seriously after it, but what do you got, Ben?
You know what? I need to do a better job of writing those down because I know I thought of a few things as the night went along. I'll do a better job next time. We've only been doing this for 4 years, man. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm the Eric Silva of the Sherdog Radio Network. Like I'm that prospect that I'm going to turn the corner any minute now, even though like I'm now the oldest guy in the org. Yeah, like
Ninja Kitty said
MMA. Joe
Ninja
Anderson
Kitty,
Burrito.
did I call him Joe Anderson Burrito? Hey, we did have heavyweights. If I really, I think Ninja Kitty's talking shit. I did not call him Joe Anderson
You just
Burrito.
named Chelsea Chandler's favorite fighter.
That's awesome. I hope I called him.
Oh, MMA Originalist asks an off-topic question. We got time for it.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, how do we think Carlos Ulberg would fare out at the top of the light heavyweight division? One, I think we're going to find out pretty soon. We talk about him. We're high as hell on him. And it works in his favor that the top of the division, for the most part now, is filled with other strikers. Like him versus Poatan, that is a narrative that writes itself. It's Israel Adesanya's teammate against Adesanya's great rival / tormentor. He's going to have to get past at least one really good wrestler to get there. He's going to have to get past one Jan Blachowicz type, I think. But if he can do that, and it works in his favor that the good wrestlers at 205 are for the most part older and on the downslope of their career, if he can stuff a couple takedowns and knock out one of those types, he's in, and we're going to find out. Like if he wins his next fight, I'm buying on him as someone who's going to challenge for a title at some point.
Yeah. Before I forget, thank you to Mark Adam for giving us a tip. I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. Ben steals all those, just so you guys know. I never get any. How do you think he paid for all those cool guitars back then?
Yeah, somebody steal, dude. Do you know how many $5 tips it would take to buy some of those guitars? Anyway, no, our parent company takes them, but it makes them very happy with us. So we appreciate it. Like, thank you.
As far as Carlos Ulberg, I'm all in, dude. Like I'm with Ben. I'm all in. I don't like making predictions like this guy versus that guy without doing it. I mean, we occasionally will do that, but if it's an obvious choice, like I'll throw like, this guy's gonna kill this guy. But when it's that one, I probably give him as good of a chance as anybody in the division of beating Alex Pereira, other than probably Ankalaev.
But
because Ankalaev has a whole different way of beating.
But Ulberg, of people that aren't already there, because Ankalaev is already there. He already probably deserves the next shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ulberg, then they booked him again.
Yeah.
He's still not good. But Ankalaev. Yeah, they don't want Ankalaev to beat Chip, and I understand why. Like they have the best possible guy they can have as the light heavyweight champion. But my point is, the way Ulberg could win is completely different than how Ankalaev won. Ankalaev wins by wrestling.
If
Ulberg's the only guy who can stand and bang with Pereira.
If we deserve any good things as a fan base, as a sport, we deserve an Ulberg Pereira rivalry over the next couple of years where they end up fighting multiple times for the title. Like it would be sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna hold off Bulls versus Bears. I'm gonna go to the grade. What would you grade for the card?
D-, and the quick main event is the only thing that keeps it from being an F.
Yeah, I'm gonna go D. The quick main event and the co-main. I mean, we knew that was gonna be absolute fire. So the last two to me also saved it from being F. So yeah, I'll go D. Just because I'm such a big fan of Chepe and Jackson, and them fighting was obviously expected to be incredible, and it was. And then the Spivac saved the night for us, which we, very pleasant surprise. Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and Bears are a stock market reference. We do it hockey style, like the Stars tonight. We can only pick 3, 2, 1. Let's go Bears. Is that all right? Can we
Absolutely
keep it negative and end on not a lot of positives on this card? Let's end positive. I'm gonna go first. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, my number 3 Bear. This is gonna be a weird one. The guy won and he's undefeated. But Danny Barlo, to me, this is the guy that a lot of people thought could be a future top 15 guy. I still think he can. Don't completely judge him on one fight. But I'll tell you, I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on it. I don't think it was a great showing, and I'm not as confident as I was before tonight, even though he won. My number 2, Marcin Tybura. I mean, he wasn't a sexy pick in the heavyweight division. He was definitely a guy could he one day get a title shot? Yeah, if everything broke right. But I think we already knew what we had with Tybura, and now the upside is just completely gone. He's lost 2 out of 3. Not a lot of Marcin Tybura fans. And my number 1, I'm going to go with Carl Williams. I mean, this guy could easily be 4-0 in the UFC. Instead, he gets a loss in a fight that he really could. I thought it could have been an easy win for him. I think it shoots him way back down the rankings, further down to make a run. So to me, the biggest loser tonight was Carl Williams. Ben, what do you have?
I agree with all yours, so I'm not going to throw 3 more on there, but I will add 2. Damon Jackson, much as I hate to say it, I'm a Texan. He's a Texan. Both of us are big fans of Fortis in general, but Jackson had a chance here. He was in a co-main event. However he got there, it's a co-main event. His opponent missed weight. If he wins this fight, he's the hero. He's making bank. And he got out Damon Jackson. He got out hustled. There are plenty of reasons or plenty of excuses. He'll be too much of a man to make those excuses. I won't make them for him, but this was at best a lost opportunity for Damon Jackson. Number 1, Chelsea Chandler. There is nothing that the MMA fan base has less patience with than missing weight. They are more forgiving of losing streaks. They are more forgiving of drug test failures.
Violence.
Oh, yeah. They lionize domestic violence. There's a significant section of the fan base that thinks guys are cooler that punch women. It's not even close. But
yeah, there's people who love Lee Murray, who robbed a bank and tied up hostages.
They hear Lee Murray robbed a bank, they think of Lee Murray busting into a bank like a desperado. No, he broke into a bank manager's house at night and held the man's wife and kids at gunpoint. That's fucked up and cowardly. I'm glad he's in prison.
I watched the whole documentary. He did that? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I remember tying the people up. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the bank manager's wife and kids.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. Anyway, Chandler, she had a chance. Anyone that comes into the UFC with a solid record, a Diaz brother stamp of approval, though I have to imagine they withdrew that. She needs to go pescatarian like they are, just eat veggies and fish, get lean down. Losing to fighters who had been on long losing streaks. Yeah, it's a bad night for Chelsea Chandler. This is exactly the kind of performance that could get her cut. So she might not even get to bounce back from this.
All right, let's go positive. Let's go to the Bulls. Ben, I'll let you kick it off. So these are the lists you want to be on.
Bulls. Yusuf Zalal. You and I were already fully invested on his second stint in the UFC. More important than getting the win, like you pointed out, he's a 4-1 favorite, is how he got the win. I don't think we're going to see Yusuf Zalal against the Yarno Erenses of the worlds for much longer, and I don't think we'll ever see him on the prelims of a bad fight night card again. He is getting promoted.
Listen, I want to say that they throw anybody on the prelims. There's no structure to the cards, but okay, I get your point.
Toshiomi Kazama might well have been fighting for his job tonight. I still don't think he's a future contender. He might still wash out of the UFC by the end of this year, but his back was against the wall. He got it done in definitive fashion. And you can be a flawed fighter in the UFC if you just understand your flaws and fight around them.
Yeah.
Tonight, he seemed to have some awareness of what he needs to do to win fights.
Yeah, and speaking of Japan, real quick, Japanese guy who wants to grapple, Japanese wrestling absolutely crushed the Olympics, which nobody was expecting. I mean, they always do good Greco and good in women's, but man, killed it in freestyle, men's freestyle too. Really, really good show from. I think they end up winning the team race. Oh, they were winning. I think it's still coming up to one more match, so Irene could pass them. But yeah, I don't think anybody was picking them to top America. So nice job by Japan.
If I don't pick Spivac, are you going to pick him? Is he on your list?
I was going to pick him, but good.
Oh, no. All right. Carl Hosa. I probably stole that one from you too. As you mentioned, if it's possible to go 8-3 in the UFC quietly, she has done so. But this is women's bantamweight. It's almost heavyweight level in how depleted the division is, how flawed and aging the fighters at the top are, and because of that, how short the road to the title picture is, especially for a fighter that fights regularly and is on the right side of 30. Carl Hosa is peaking at just the right time. Good night to be Carl Hosa.
Yeah, so I'll give you three real quick. Again, I don't think he had the best performance, but he's undefeated, and that matters. I'm going to go with Janise, or Denise, how you say it, or Janise, I think is how you say it. The guy's undefeated. I mean, say what you want in heavyweight. He's making small improvements. If he can help his ground game a little bit, he can go far. So he's got a little bit more buzz than he would if he had just had a single loss. So my number two, I mean, you mentioned Serghei Spivac. Well, the guy in his last 5 fights, he's gone 4-1, all by way of stoppage. He's become like the submission threat of the division. With him and Jelton Almeida. So he's on the rise. And then my number one is actually going to lead into our next category, and who's our bulls. Anybody who watched this card, then came and watched this show and participated in the chat. This is one of the hardest cards we've ever had to recap in 4 years. Dude, you guys are freaking rock stars for doing this. So all you guys are number one on my bulls list, and also every one of you are my listener of the evening.
And there's a whole other merit badge, because there were a couple people who are here for the recap without having watched the card. Like, that just means that you're smarter than Keith and me. Like, we should have recapped this without watching it. We should have just shown up and been like,
who
guys, who won?
Who said we watched
it? Yeah.
You have a listener of the night?
You know what? I like giving it to everybody. Welcome, Mark Adam. I want to say this is the first time we've seen you here. Paul Viverette, I think you're new as well. So it's a different kind of show after a great card. So come hang with us next week after UFC 305. But, we definitely appreciate all of you.
Yeah. And some people actually won money. So that's cool. I'm glad you guys won money, and very cool. So there you guys have it. We've covered all 50 fights. All 10 fights. I think we go deeper than anybody in history. We got through this card to get to the massive one next week, the big showdown. Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya, the pay-per-view, plus a bunch of other great fights. So make sure you tune into that. Me and Ben will be previewing that, going deeper than anybody ever has. I get some last-minute tape study to do, and I'm excited. I'll give you a hint. I flip-flopped a little bit on the main event. I think it's a great one. So make sure that's a little free nugget for only the people in the chat who stick around this long. So
and it's a great card. And unlike Chelsea Chandler, it is not carrying any excess weight. It's a 12-fight card. The UFC would usually service this thing with just 2 or 3 useless fights kind of tacked on, but it's pretty good from start to finish, and it's only 12 fights.
And me and Ben will be back here. It'll be super late that night, but we'll be recapping all that. We'll go much deeper and much more fun. So thank you guys for listening. Until then, see you next time.